Authorities in Gaza updated the death and injury toll of the Israeli occupiers' genocidal operation, saying attacks claimed the lives of 28,730 Palestinians and raised the number of wounded to 67,984. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro stated that threats to overthrow him from the government remain. And strong protests erupted in the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo against the government of the United States, France, Rwanda, and the United Kingdom that cooperate with the silent Holocaust in the country. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. Authorities in Gaza on Wednesday updated the death and injury toll of the Israeli occupiers' genocidal operation, saying attacks claimed the lives of 28,730 Palestinians and raised the number of wounded to 77,984. On the 131st day of the genocide in Gaza, the Health Ministry indicated that the Zionist army bombed again refugee camps in Deir al-Balah, East and Nuseirat in central Gaza. On the other hand, Palestinian authorities reported that the siege persists also in Han Yunis, where occupation forces opened fire from a helicopter. In this regard, according to the latest data from the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 360,000 Gaza's homes or residential units have been destroyed or damaged, with 392 educational facilities devastated, along 11 out of 35 hospitals are partially functioning. Israeli forces continue their siege on medical facilities in the Gaza Strip, and this time they are surrounding and shooting at the Al Nasser hospital in Han Yunis. Our correspondent in the ground, Noor Harsin, with the details.
As the Israeli forces continue its offensive on the Gaza Strip, and now it is the same scenario that happened in Kamal Udwan Hospital, in Ashifa Hospital, in the Indonesian hospital, is now happening again in the Al Nasser Hospital, which is located in the heart of Khan Yunis city. The Al Nasser Hospital is actually the second biggest complex, a medical complex in Gaza after the Ashifa Hospital, and now it is being under the Israeli fire. For 2 days now, the Israeli bulldozers has surrounded the Al Nasser Hospital, shoot towards the walls. They even destroyed the wall fence surrounding the hospital. They shot at displaced people inside the hospital, and a number of people were actually killed over the past days, including women and children. And the paramedics inside the hospital did not even manage to go on the front gate of the Al Nasser Hospital to evacuate them. This is how bad the situation there. There is also one thing that is not making sense for the Palestinians inside the hospital, the displaced people, which is the Israeli army actually called and asked the people who are inside the hospital to evacuate. But at the same time, they are shooting anyone who moves inside or outside the hospital. So actually, this does not make any sense. How are the Israeli army asking the Palestinians to evacuate while they are shooting at people, and there is already a number of people who were killed? That's why actually the Palestinians for now are not evacuating or leaving the hospital. Noor Harsin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
In this context, the leader of the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, highlighted the heroism of the Palestinian people and assured that Israel continues to reap failures after 130 days of genocide against the Gaza Strip. Nasrallah stressed that the occupation faces a policy of impotence. The Hezbollah leader expressed that Lebanon's actions in support of Gaza will continue until Israel's aggression ceases and the ceasefire is established. She also assured that the Lebanese resistance is determined to confront the enemy at any level, and it will not accept the conditions that Israel presented to the West to avoid an escalation in the region. Nasrallah also added that the origin of the destabilization in the region was the creation of the Israeli occupation entity. Finally, the Hezbollah leader assured that the actions in favor of Gaza are an honest response to the moral and religious responsibility of its people.
What we have been doing in Lebanon for 130 days and what our brothers on other support fronts are doing is an honest response to the humanitarian, moral, faith, and religious responsibility that falls on each one of us. Our responsibility today is to preserve these achievements, and sustaining the achievement or the victory is more difficult than reaching the achievement or the victory.
Also, the secretary of the Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah, assured that the existence of Israel is a danger to the people of the region.
The existence of Israel is a calamity for the whole region, and a strong Israel was a danger. But a fearful and deterred Israel represents a less dangerous and harmful situation for the peoples of the region.
Nasrallah also stressed that Hezbollah's national responsibility in maintaining a resistant front to defeat Israel.
The Lebanon front had to be open to prevent Israel from winning and defeating it, and this is a national responsibility. Since the beginning of the battle on the Lebanese front until today, we have been hearing, as is the case in other countries, as well as in Yemen, Iraq, and various places, about this battle and its feasibility, and there is no problem with the discussion. The Lebanese front is important to defeat Israel, and an Israel victory in the Battle of Gaza is a danger to the region.
While this is happening in Egypt, Israel and the Palestinian resistance Hamas seek to move forward on an agreement to reach a ceasefire and release hostages. An Israeli delegation left for the city of Cairo to meet with Hamas negotiators who are in Egypt. It is expected that during the talks, the delegations will address a possible exchange of hostages as well as issues related to security in the region. Local media assured that during the discussion, the current situation of the city of Rafah was debated in face of the advance of the Israeli offensive. According to the sources, Israel will seek during the conversation to move forward in the release of detainees, while they put aside the question of a definitive ceasefire in Gaza. Also on Monday, the President of the United States, Joseph Biden, assured that there is a plan to guarantee at least 6 weeks of ceasefire in Gaza Strip area. Biden declared that after a meeting with Jordan King Abdullah II, that the key element of a deal were on the table, but still there were gaps that remained. Senior officials from the U.S., Egypt, Israel, and Qatar are expected to meet in Cairo to work on a 3-phase framework that would try to achieve the release of hostages and also would try to establish an extended pause. The U.S. head of state even spoke about ending the war, although he didn't explain how. On the other hand, King Abdullah II returned his side to the serious situation in the Palestinian enclave.
We cannot allow an Israeli attack on Rafah. It would surely lead to another humanitarian catastrophe. The situation is already unbearable for more than 1 million people who have been cornered in Rafah since the war began. We cannot stand armed crossbow and let this continue. We need an enduring stop to the fire now. This war must end.
And President Joseph Biden recognized in this context that the Israeli regime has killed more than 27,000 Palestinians and children since October 7th and stressed that a military escalation in Rafah should not proceed without a credible plan.
Too many of the over 27,000 Palestinians killed in this conflict have been innocent civilians and children, including thousands of children. And hundreds of thousands have no access to food, water, or other basic services. The major military operation in Rafah should not proceed without a credible plan for ensuring the safety and support of more than 1 million people sheltering there.
The independent panel investigated allegations against the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, began its work on Wednesday. The initiative is coordinated by the former Chancellor of France, Catherine Colonna, and brings together experts from Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. The panel is due to submit an interim report to Guterres in late March and a final one in late April with, if necessary, recommendations for improvement and strengthening of the agency's mechanisms. The group will review mechanisms and procedures currently in place at the humanitarian agency to ensure its neutrality and determine whether there are indeed ties to the Palestinian resistance group Hamas. Let's take a short break, but remember, you can join us on TikTok, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us.
El mundo se mueve constantemente.
Welcome back to From the South. In Colombia, President Gustavo Petro stated on Tuesday that threats to overthrow him from the government remain. President Petro stated that this during a speech at the Industrial University of Santander in the city of Bucaramanga in the northeastern part of the country. In addition to reiterating the need to democratize Ecopetrol, he made harsh remarks to the judicial branch. About the state-owned company, he even assured that the arrest of its president and also of the president of the union had been announced. As for the positions of the control agencies against him, he ratified that the threats to overthrow him persist. Petro also warned that members of his cabinet are victims of judicial persecution and warned about the attempts to certain sectors to establish an institutional rupture. In Argentina, provincial officials warn of an increase in transportation costs after Milei's government eliminated gas subsidies for public transportation and transportation companies. Officials from different provinces of Argentina warned about the increase in passenger transportation fares, most of them higher than 1,000 pesos, after this cut by the government of Javier Milei. This way, the Minister of Transportation of Buenos Aires emphasized that with this announcement, the economy of the nation and the citizens in general would be affected. Finally, he pointed out that the removal of subsidies is a revenge for the fall of the omnibus bill and urged the administration to reflect on the damage that is being caused on the citizens. On Tuesday, the divergences within the Supreme Electoral Tribunal of El Salvador continue to obscure the vote counting to integrate the Legislative Assembly. The situation is part of the problems faced in several aspects of the presidential and legislative elections held in February, of which only the re-election of Nayib Bukele as president is no by decision of the vast majority of those who went to cast their vote. In this way, the crisis within the electoral authority increased after 4 out of 5 substitute magistrates said that they would not support illegal and incorrect decisions made by the governing body of the election regarding the final scrutiny of the Legislative Assembly election and the planning of the elections on Sunday, March 3rd.
We also know that inside the Supreme Electoral Tribunal there are substitute magistrates that do not agree with the decisions that were made there. We also know that the same magistrates, owner of the Supreme Electoral Court, acknowledged that there was a boycott within that institution, which caused the February 4 failure. And we also know that the Electoral Supreme Court today is favoring disregardingly a political party, as in the most particular case, that of Villa Universitaria, in which we have not received any notification in this respect.
In this context, the representative of the political party Nuestro Tiempo, Andy Failer, assured that highest electoral body of El Salvador has failed.
All this has been in evidence thanks to the work of the media and because the opposition political parties have decided to be inside, to take care of the votes, to protect the votes, and to show why we are now in this position due to the failure of that Supreme Electoral Court.
The president of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, attended this Tuesday the last session of the second international meeting of theoretical publications of left parties and organizations. He proposed actions to make the agreements reached sustainable. The president recalled that at the first meeting, the basis for uniting wills were proposed under the concept of responsibility, and from there to develop a socialistic logic that faced capitalistic logic. In this second meeting, he stressed the need to find ways for actions on the theoretical basis to produce impacts and results. Against this backdrop, he recalled the importance of Operation Truth, devised by the commander Fidel Castro. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Strong protests erupted on Tuesday in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, aimed at the government of the United States, France, Rwanda, and the United Kingdom that cooperate with the silent Holocaust that thousands live in the country. Demonstrators accused Western countries of supporting the M23 rebel group that has committed bloody massacres in the eastern provinces of the country, such as North Kivu, South Kivu, and Ituri. They claim that the appetite of these nations for coltan and cobalt leads them to support, with the complicity of Rwanda, several violent militias that have forced nearly 7 million people to move, according to data from the International Organization for Migration. They also repudiate the passive attitudes of the United Nations. Indonesia ranked as the third largest democracy in the world, having registered nearly 270 million voters, that has already elected a president and is awaiting official results. Polling stations closed on Wednesday afternoon without incident. The candidate who left as a favorite, Prabowo Subianto, Minister of the Defense of the current government, the provincial governors Anies Baswedan and Prabowo, wait to know which of them will become the substitute for the president, Joko Widodo, who serves the last of his 2 terms, leaving the country as the first economy in the Southeast Asia. The World Health Organization warned more than 5 million people were infected with dengue fever in several countries around the world in 2023. Authorities said that of the 5 million cases, 4.5 million were reported in the Americas, the highest number ever. Officials urged the population to take the corresponding measures to avoid the spread of the contagion and prevent the increase in deaths. On the other hand, representatives of the health agency pointed out that in Brazil, more than 3 million cases were reported, representing 68% of all infections. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres lamented on Tuesday the emphasis placed by some governments on buying weapons at the cost of policies tackling global warming and hunger.
It is distressing to see governments spending heavily on arms while starving budgets for food security, climate action, and broader sustainable development.
We can break the deadly nexus of anger, climate chaos, and conflict, and quell the threat they pose to international peace and security. Let us act to do so and build a livable, sustainable future, free from hunger and free from the scourge of war.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.